Hello and welcome to another edition of Pulp Picks. My name is Patrick.
I'm Fritz.
And we're here to give you this week's reading recommendations on New Comic Book Day. We've got a number of interesting books that are kicking off some new story arcs for individual characters, but also for a whole new universe or world, or however we want to put that. Mm-hmm. And so let's dive right in. And Fritz, what did you pick this week?
Yeah, so my pick this week was Storm #1, latest in the series of new X titles further from the Ashes line. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we've had a couple of the X books up here. I think all 3 issues of Uncanny. Some, like, a lot of the others have gotten like honorable mentions.
I think we had all the #1s.
Yeah, most of the #1s at least. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. But Storm here, obviously, is kind of like a big deal because outside of Wolverine, I think this is the first like new solo title for a character from this era.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously.
Oh, well, Dazzler had that.
Oh, yeah. She got her new mini. Yep. But, Storm's for like, I think this is like only like the real second time she's ever had like a proper ongoing. Like, she's had minis here and there, but. Yeah, I know like Greg Pak had a series like 10, 15 years ago. That sound right?
Yeah.
But we've got this new one here. They're kind of like repositioning her, I feel rightfully so, as like kind of like the like prominent mutant like out there that like is interacting with a lot of the other like hero community in the world at large. Because in terms of just like her personality, her power set, she's just kind of like built for that. Yeah,
well, and she just got invited to the Avengers recently.
Yep, she's on the Avengers now. So like she's just kind of like, This is very much showing like how she's like presenting herself as just like kind of the face of mutantdom, especially in this like weird post-Crowan age where like things aren't like great for mutants. And this issue does kind of like get into that because it kind of like flips back and forth between like different like points in like the story where like some of it's like her getting ready for this like big press conference, but then we get to see like the events of this like incident that she helped like save the survivors of this town from, and like the moral choices that she had to make there that are already in this issue probably going to come back and bite her pretty bad. Like, which is what I love is like, yes, she's like a very like powerful character. Like her like actual like mutant abilities allow her to do so much, but at the same time, like you have to find like ways to challenge her that aren't just like, here's someone who's super strong. It's a similar thing that the Phoenix series has been dealing with, which is like, how can you like make a character who can do all these things like have something that's actually an issue for them? And one of the cool ways to do that is like find things that you can just like, you can't punch your way through. Like, okay, I've got to like think my way around this. I've got to like reason my way around this. Like, how do I handle this kind of problem? And I love when a story can do that well.
Yeah, even when the problems are which version of my look should I go?
Yeah, I do love that there's this one establishing shot where it's just like her closet full of Wolf outfits because like she's had a lot of looks, a lot of really cool looks. One of the things I love for this, Lucas Warnock is doing the art for it, and unsurprisingly, this is a guy who did like a lot of the designs for like the Hellfire Galas the last couple of years. Like, dude knows how to make cool looks. He designed the new look you see here on the cover. They've actually shown off that she's going to have multiple like new outfits that she's going to be wearing for this. Yeah. One they've shown off so far is honestly one of my favorites. Like, it's a cool like redo on like her like 90s white outfit.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, the writer, I'm blanking on the name. They're like kind of like newer to doing like Big 2 stuff. They've done some like indie stuff here and there. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce that right. Mirawa. Yeah, but like I love their writing for her and like the other side characters. Like, she has a fun conversation with Tony where where it's just where like Storm is like asking these questions, just like, hey man, I don't ask you how you make clouds. Like, don't get up in my business about this. Like it like there's great stuff there. There, like I mentioned, there's some like interesting like voiceover going on, just like, oh, there's like something else at play going on too that like might be an issue going forward. But no, it's just a very solid setup. I love the look of everything, like her outfit, her new base, just like everything about this book just is a nice little like introduction to the character and what they're trying to set up for it.
Yeah, it's visually stunning. Mm-hmm. You could probably make the argument that Storm is maybe the second most popular X-Man.
She's easily top 5. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's Wolverine, obviously. He's been in so many books, so many titles throughout the years. That's almost kind of the joke. Like, where do you find the time to do all this? But then after that, I think Storm is pretty universally liked. There are people that like Cyclops, but there are a lot of people who hate Cyclops. A lot of the other characters are kind of, they're...
You don't really know anyone who, like, doesn't like, no one, like, hates Storm. Like,
No.
even if she's not, like, your favorite, like, I doubt you, like, hate her or dislike her or anything.
Yeah, and she's been pretty cool in almost every iteration, especially, like the 90s cartoon series and everything.
Yeah.
They did such a cool job with that.
Yeah, no,
Halle
like,
Berry movie, Storm.
Yeah, no, like, she's always been great. She continues to be great here. I'm super excited to see what they do going forward. But speaking of characters that have to face, like, interesting and messy moral dilemmas, your pick, Patrick.
Yes, my pick is somebody whose face is getting messy right now.
Yeah.
I went with Plastic Man No More, number 2. Now, I picked number 1. Christopher Cantwell has been writing some of my favorite stuff. His Iron Man run was really good. So when I saw that he was going to be doing this book, I was really excited because I've been saying for quite a while, like, I want to see a Plastic Man story, and I'd like to see something that's both funny and dark. Well, in the first issue, we found out that Plastic Man he's not really stable. And not just emotionally, because we've known that for a long time, but like his body is literally starting to break down.
Yeah.
Which would be one thing if it were just about him. But his son Luke has inherited his powers, and he's worried that the same thing could happen to him. So he starts concocting a plan to be able to save Luke, if not himself. And part of that requires a whole lot of uranium. And I'm not giving much away because uranium of the Metal Men is featured prominently on the cover. Ooh, man. So, Plastic Man is a recovered criminal. He basically did like bank heists and that kind of stuff. And so he went to the Justice League and they thought he was just kind of joking because nobody takes him seriously. So he decides like, well, I guess I'll just have to figure this out on my own, and that might just be me going back to a heist. So he recruits the Metal Men to save uranium, and so this book it's fun. You find yourself laughing quite a bit, but there's this kind of dark undertone of all this stuff that's happening, and it's one of those stories where things keep spiraling out of control, and it feels like he's got a handle on, things at the beginning of the first issue. Things are fine, and then they kind of slowly go down the drain, and then at the beginning of this one, literally, and then at the beginning of this one, you're like, oh, well, he's got a plan, we'll see where this goes, and it goes about where you'd expect it to. But one of the other really fun things that they do is that they're switching between two artists here, and so you've got Jacob Edgar doing this stuff where he's interacting with the Justice League, and that's kind of your shiny Saturday morning cartoon kind of style.
It's very clean.
Yeah, it looks really great. And then you've got Alex Linz doing the other stuff. And the way that Plastic Man keeps deteriorating throughout these two books so far has just been really good. But they're both cartoony and have fun elements to them, but one's kind of grittier and one's definitely shinier. But it just makes for a really interesting, it almost makes the Justice League stuff almost kind of sadder and darker because it's so clean. And
like the fact that they can do that is just always a testament to like the skill of the art. It's just like how they can like use their style to juxtapose whatever like the actual like written word is to like convey an entirely different feeling.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. And Cantwell is doing such a good job of handling all the emotions of all the people, not just, Plastic Man, but all the people around him and everything that's happening. So yeah, I really enjoy it. You don't really have to know a lot about Plastic Man, but Cantwell also did his research, and I'm just really enjoying it. He's kind of one of those guys where he's a lovable loser. You're kind of rooting for him, but you just know he's going to make a mess of things. So.
One of the things I love with this, and something that DC seems to be looking to do a lot more coming up, is just like you said, like they're getting to spot like these like lesser used characters. Like I love like Cantwell. If you check out the new DC previews, he's going to be doing a Challenges of the Unknown miniseries.
Yes.
Al Ewing is going to be doing a Metamorpho series.
Yeah.
Like all these characters that like people love and just don't get to like really shine a lot as much as like your Supermans and your Batmans are like getting to do that now, and it's super cool.
Yeah, they have such a great stable, and we've been saying for years, like they just need to do more with all the characters that they have, and we're getting to that. So, and we've been picking a number of those books lately too. Yeah. So,
and speaking of getting to that, our next pick does actually involve getting to a lot of those characters actually getting to shine.
Absolutely, and has a lovable loser as kind of your main character that you're following through this story.
Yeah. So our joint pick this week is the new DC All-In Special. First thing we're just going to point out, so it's actually a flip book. Dun dun dun. So you're kind of getting two books in one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so basically what this is it's DC coming off of like Absolute Power and some of the other recent events is kind of like doing like a clean slate, not in terms of like changing continuity or anything. We're all used to that.
Right.
But basically in terms of making it so like every title right now starting this week is going to be like a fresh jumping on point for readers. Like some of them have like new creative teams, some of them have like the old creative teams that have been on them for a bit, but they're all being geared towards like, hey, if you've been reading comics for a long time, keep on reading. If this is like you just picking something up for the first time, hi, welcome. You're going to have a fun time here. Like
so a fresh story arc for everything, pretty much.
Yeah, and in doing so, the framing device here is this half here is about the new Justice League coming together for the Justice League Unlimited title coming next month.
Right, in the main DC continuity.
Yeah.
It's the classic Justice League being reformed.
Yeah, the Justice League has been disbanded for a little bit now. I think like the last 2 years, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and so this is about them being like, hey, maybe that was a bad idea. We should get the band back together, but we also should make it like everyone's in the band now. So you've got like everyone showing up, everyone's like contributing in some fashion. Like they've got like security system runs off like magic and stuff. They've got like the Question is kind of like helping run stuff. Like they've got like everyone's kind of there. Like if there's a DC character, I think Mark Waid, who's going to be doing the Justice League titles, just like they'll probably show up at some point in some fashion.
Yeah,
and you really kind of get that vibe here.
The thought being that after Amanda Waller really kind of showed how being able to pick them off one by one was a real weakness. They decided not only we should be on a team together, but we should really interweave these different abilities that we have. So they combine magic and technology and interweave all of these different abilities and strengths and so forth that they have. The Speed Force and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to utilize all of it together so that's creating a better defense against whatever could happen. And
what happens is Darkseid shows up.
Turns out that's not good. Oh, we should talk about the lovable loser from whose point of view.
Yeah, so like a good chunk of this issue is kind of like from Booster Gold's point of view, because being a time traveler and everything, like he recognizes as being like this like big moment, and also then recognizes when Darkseid shows up, like this isn't how this was supposed to go down. Like,
no, not at all. Booster Gold, Minnesota's own Dan Jurgens creation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so like a good chunk of the Justice League section then just becomes like a big knockdown all up roll against Darkseid with a very interesting outcome that due to like the strange nature of it, like Booster is the one they've got to be like, hey, you can like go and like check it out, like what's going on here.
Yeah.
And he does. And it's definitely not what anyone was expecting.
Yeah, he's basically sent on a recon mission and it goes as badly as it possibly could.
Yeah, like it does not go well with some interesting result. But you might be wondering like, oh, we mentioned the flip book because this side is about what Darkseid's up to before all that happens.
Turns out he's up to no good.
Yeah. Like basically, he's like noticed like something's like off about him and like the universe recently, and is like trying to get to the bottom of just like what that's about. And in typical Darkseid fashion, it involves a lot of killing things, a lot of just general mayhem being caused. Yep. Like it's just kind of like pure chaos, which is interesting considering like how much of his whole thing is just like he wants like control, and like you start to see like how like all this is still like being meant towards like him achieving that goal, just like pure domination of something new, because basically his actions in here and then the Justice League side are what result in the creation of the new Absolute universe, starring the new Absolute versions of all your favorite characters here.
Yep.
And it's very interesting how that all like comes to be. Like, it definitely like sets out like this is going to be a very like different universe. Like these like characters are going to have to like struggle more to be the heroes we know them as in this world, just because of its like fundamental nature.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see our, Darkseid obviously is the connection between these two worlds at this point, because that world was already created. It was just kind of in its infancy stages. Right?
Yeah.
But Darkseid is connecting to that world, but has also drawn in the Justice League from mainline continuity. So it feels kind of, I'm assuming that this is just going to be kind of a kickstart to be able to draw in people who are reading, what DC's been putting out lately in continuity, to be able to bridge into that easily. But I think also a lot of customers that have expressed interest in the new Absolute books that start next week with Absolute Batman are interested, because this is a jumping on point with essentially brand new characters. They've got the trappings of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, but their stories are going to be starting next week. So it's going to be really interesting to see how long they keep that connection between the two, or if it's just going to be kind of this launching and then they're going to go off on their separate ways and kind of forget about each other. Which I could see either one, but I would guess kind of the latter maybe.
And like one of the things I love about this book is, so like you've got Scott Snyder and Josh Williams are like the two like writers for it, but they split the art duties between Justice League side. It's Daniel Sampry, who most people probably recognize from his recent work on Wonder Woman, and his stuff. Like he's got this like super like clean, like very heroic style to his stuff.
Yeah, did a lot of the all-in variants.
Super cool. Some of which we have up here. Yeah. But then on Darkseid stuff, we've got Wes Craig, probably best known for his indie book Kaya.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he has this like much more like I'm trying to think of like what's the best way to describe it, like almost bombastic. Like everything just like has this very like crunchy feeling to it.
Yeah, it's Daniel Warren Johnson like. I would say that they're kind of a similar thread.
It reminds me kind of when there are certain like Kirby-esque elements to some of it. He'd really like, obviously for like New God stuff, you want someone who can like nail that. And I feel like he really does a good job of that. Like,
yeah, you want somebody who's got some Kirby vibes doing
stuff. It very much reminds me of like when Keith Giffen would like try and invoke that stuff, where like it's got like the same flavor, but it's still like very clearly its own thing. Yeah, like it just like there's a certain heft to everything.
Yeah, Keith Giffen gone too soon.
But no, like I love how they have them doing like their two different styles in both halves, and then without like getting too deep into spoilers, there's like a middle page where it all meets, and there's someone else in the art for that, which I think is very much kind of telling you where that might come up again.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I'm excited to see. I know we've had a lot of buzz around the Absolute Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. So it's going to be really interesting to see where this all goes. Using Darkseid as a connection between the worlds makes sense. You've got this kind of ultimate threat from the DC universe, being kind of central to both of them now. It's going to be really interesting. But because this is basically the Dark Knight's metal world, right? Like,
well, it kind of, it was like, because the ending of that, like there was that like new like Earth Alpha or whatever, that like was kind of like not fully formed yet. Like it's shown up in a couple places here and there, but like this is just like it now being like becoming the world that like I don't know if it was always meant to be, but the world's going to be now.
Right, and now Darkseid's kind of putting his thumb on it.
Yeah,
and so it's going to be interesting to see how Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman come about to be, in this world. So,
and the good news is you don't even have to wait that long because, like we said, Absolute Batman drops next week, so you're going to get to find out real quick, how. Which spoiler, it's probably going to be up here because as soon as I saw Nick Dragotas be going to draw a Batman book, regardless of whatever the context was, I was just like, I'm going to love this.
Yeah.
Like you can't make me hate anything Batman does.
Yeah, for sure. Super cool. Well, what else was kind of close on the list this week for you? The bubble books, if you will.
Other stuff that was really good this week. Thor continues to be great. The new issue of I Like Popeye. They bring in some other like characters this issue that I just as much as I love anytime Popeye gets to like do like a bunch of like fighting and punching all that, like I really love how this book is also like doing a lot of like character work, like getting into like these little character interactions. Like I love that Bluto's just kind of like hanging around. Like he doesn't really seem to want to be there, but he's just like, you guys are the closest things I have to friends, I guess. I love that. Like we mentioned before, there's a bunch of like all the DC books this week, like all the main books are like starting the DCL and stuff. So new like Batman and Poison Ivy, they're all like clean slates to jump onto. But I don't know, what did you like, Patrick? Yeah,
I thought the end to Get Fury was really good. Now, when I say really good, I mean it was terrible.
I mean, yeah.
Awful things have happened in this entire series, but it's Frank Castle and Nick Fury in Vietnam during the Vietnam War. So you knew that it was going to be graphic and awful things would be happening. But man, the way that Garth Ennis just did all of that, the CIA operatives and the general that they're working with, they're just so gross. And just the whole end of it, it was both extremely frustrating and satisfying at the same time. So it was really good. I thought in particular the last few pages were a really interesting choice, but it really worked. Like I thought that it was cool, but yeah, I really liked that. I gave Hyde Street, that's a really interesting concept. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah, because that's Ivan Reese on art, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And was it Jeff Johns?
Yep.
Yeah, Jeff Johns. So it's kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like Mad Men meets Spawn in kind of a weird way. Yeah. But yeah, there's a 1960s Madison Avenue advertising executive as kind of...
John Hamm is the violator.
Yeah. Only as, Mr. X-Ray. So it's really interesting. And there's a crazy psychotic Cub Scout in it too. So, can't go wrong. But yeah, that's really interesting. I know a number of our customers that will be interested in that.
Yeah.
And so a lot of good stuff. All right, so speaking of artists that we really, really like, we have one coming down this Saturday, which we've been talking about for weeks now. But if you haven't made plans, this Saturday from 11 to 3 p.m., so right away when we open, Brent Schoonover is coming down from the Twin Cities to do signings, and we've got a number of blank cover books that you can get remarked if you want. He'll do sketches, that kind of stuff. There might still be time to put an order in for something if you
I know we've had like people message about like, is there like, how do I do that or stuff?
Yeah, so if you go to the social media post or if you go to his website, there is an email address that you submit requests to. So do that ASAP if you're looking for anything. But you'll be able to also do that when he's here. You just won't be able to get it right away. Because those bigger pieces obviously take quite a bit of time. So, but then you could talk specifically to him about what it is that you're hoping for. He does great stuff. I got a super cool Batman from him last time he was down a couple years ago. somebody got a Ghost Rider that looked really cool. And he did a whole bunch of really cool stuff. Also does a lot of concert posters. So if that's kind of your jam, check those out as well. Might give you some ideas. There was a really cool Archie themed Weezer poster.
Nice.
Yeah, which was just such a great marriage of, so super cool. So yes, this Saturday, October 5th, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Be here. Even if you just want to, hit him up for a couple questions about what it's like to work in the comic industry or get some of his work signed. He's been doing the Dick Tracy variant covers 1 through 5. So I know a lot of our regulars have been picking those up in anticipation that he would possibly come back. And it worked out really well. So super excited for that. All right. Well, anything else?
No, not that I can think of.
Yeah, me either. So we'll be back next week with more picks. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe, leave comments, all of that stuff. Get into your local comic shop, check out comics. And chit chat with the people there. Hopefully it's pulp, but if you're across the state or across the country, go into your local comic shop and be part of the culture, because that's how we can really drive great stories being told and supporting artists and writers and small local businesses, because there's no such thing as a giant chain of comic book stores across the country. Thank God. We get that question more than you think. Like, people are like, oh, you've got like multiple locations, right? And it's just like, nope. Yeah. And not that there aren't stores that don't have multiple locations, but far from chains.
Oh, yeah.
I really like that. That makes it so much more organic and fun. And we get to have great personal relationships, and we really appreciate all of that. So until next week, when we'll be back with more picks, enjoy the reading.
No, I think I like looked it up one time just to like what happened if I like Googled like pulp comics, and like I think like there's us, and then there's like a store in like Syracuse, New York that's also called like Pulp Comics or something like that. Yeah, like it like real just like random like place out there. Like,
I wanted to do Forbidden Planet because I love that movie so much, but there's like 10 Forbidden Planet or Planet X and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, I guess 50s sci-fi just isn't going to be our vibe.
We should have just called ourselves the Ed Wood Comic Store.
Yeah. Well, I mean, pulp isn't that far off. It's just Ed Wood chewed up and back out again.
Eddie Pulp. Ooh, Eddie Pulp is actually Pulp like...
Could be our character.
Oh,
we may have come up with something.
It writes itself, people.